Do you ever find yourself dissecting every tiny decision you make? Hitting replay on conversations in your head, wondering if someone perceived you negatively? Or maybe you're constantly bracing yourself, convinced your boss is about to fire you out of the blue. If any of that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. Overthinking is, well, it's a challenge so many of us grapple with. But here's the crucial thing. It's a real misconception to think it's just a bad habit or that you're simply a chronic overthinker. There's almost always something deeper, something far more significant fueling that endless mental loop.
Exactly. What's often fascinating here is that overthinking isn't usually the main event. It's a symptom. In most cases, it points to an underlying issue like anxiety, depression, or maybe low self-esteem. It's that classic chicken and egg scenario. It can be tough to say which started first, but understanding both sides of that equation is absolutely crucial for you. And this isn't some niche problem. Anxiety disorders are actually the most common mental illnesses in the U.S., affecting a staggering 40 million adults. That's, wow, 18% of the entire population. The great news is we've made incredible strides in treatment, from powerful therapies to effective medication, all designed to help people regain control.
So, what does this all mean for your life? Our mission for this deep dive is to explore how overthinking isn't just an isolated thought loop in your head. It creates a profound ripple effect across every single area of your life. We're talking about your overall happiness, your professional growth, and even the health of your relationships. Our goal today is to equip you with powerful, practical strategies. You'll learn to spot those unhealthy thinking patterns, challenge them head on, and ultimately take back control of your thoughts and emotions, giving you back precious mental energy. Okay, let's unpack this then. We use the term overthinking a lot, but what exactly is it at its core? Is it just worrying, or is there more to it, like what we call rumination?
That's a great question. At its heart, overthinking is that relentless process of constantly analyzing and, well, agonizing over your thoughts. And yes, rumination is a big part of it. Think of rumination like hitting the replay button on a bad movie clip in your head over and over again. It's not really about analyzing to find a solution. It's more just getting stuck on the emotional loop of something that happened or maybe something that might happen. It's less about problem solving and more about just reliving the discomfort.
Right, so it's not just a quirk, it's often a signpost. What are some of the most common reasons our brains get stuck in this incessant worrying?
Well, a major factor we often see is low self-esteem. When you struggle with how you perceive yourself, it naturally leads to self-doubt. You might overthink every decision because you desperately want to make the right one, terrified of failure or judgment. What's fascinating is the difference between healthy self-esteem, which is balanced and authentic, and what often looks like high self-esteem, but is actually a cover-up for deep insecurity, think boasting or, overcompensating. Genuinely low self-esteem often reveals itself in ways you might not immediately connect to overthinking, like feeling regular anxiety, constantly putting others' needs first, experiencing shame, doubting your ability to succeed, or even having a fear of being alone. And remember, your overthinking isn't always caused by just one thing. It can definitely be a combination.
Okay. And beyond self-esteem, I know a lot of people associate overthinking with anxiety. How are they connected?
Oh, they're profoundly intertwined. Overthinking is actually one of the most commonly reported symptoms of anxiety. You see, your brain has this incredible natural self-defense mechanism. It's like your internal smoke detector, right? Designed to warn you about real dangers. But when it goes haywire, it starts sounding alarms even when there's no actual fire. That's where those negative thoughts and the overthinking loop come in. Two specific anxiety disorders show this link very clearly: generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder.
Okay, tell us about generalized anxiety disorder first, GAD.
Right, generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. It isn't about one specific fear. It's that constant background hum of worry about everyday things. Think health, money, work, family, often disproportionate to the actual situation. It's less about the big crises and maybe more about the small daily anxieties that keep your mind spinning. Symptoms like constant fatigue, difficulty concentrating because your brain is always busy, muscle tension you can't shake, and disturbed sleep are really common here. If you're someone who's naturally sensitive, tends to be nervous, or struggles to tolerate frustration, you might be at a higher risk.
Okay. And social anxiety disorder, how does that differ?
Then there's social anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
Now, everyone gets a little nervous before a big presentation or meeting new people, right? But with social anxiety, that nervousness morphs into an overwhelming fear of being criticized, judged, humiliated, or even laughed at. This can manifest physically, like excessive sweating, nausea, trembling, or even stammering and blushing when you speak.
Wow.
Psychologically, you might feel extreme dread before social events, leading you to actively avoid gatherings, which then impacts your daily life. It's actually quite common, affecting about 11% of the population. It often starts young and seems to be more prevalent in women. It's frequently fueled by learned behaviors from past negative social experiences, which makes the overthinking before, during, and after interactions particularly intense.
So we've got anxiety, low self-esteem. What about depression? How does that factor into this constant mental churning?
Oh, absolutely. Depression disorders definitely cause constant self-doubt and can lead you to overthink every little action. While there are many types, here are a few that particularly fuel overthinking. Mild and moderate depression often interfere with your motivation and joy, making it harder to break out of those thought loops.
Hmm.
Then there's dysthymia, which is kind of a low-grade depression with milder but persistent symptoms that last at least 2 years. People with dysthymia often feel like they've always been depressed, and this chronic state can make constant rumination feel almost normal, rather than a symptom you can address. It can even combine with major depressive episodes, creating what's called double depression.
Double depression, right.
For some, atypical depression might be present. Here, your mood temporarily improves with positive events, but it's accompanied by things like increased appetite, weight gain, excessive sleeping, and a real unique sensitivity to rejection. And finally, seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. It's a real condition hitting maybe 1–2% of the population, especially young people and women. It's triggered by reduced daylight hours in winter. When the days get shorter, it can truly drag you down, bringing stress, sadness, and that feeling of hopelessness. This all raises an important question for you listening as we walk through these. Do any of these descriptions resonate with your experience? If so, seeking a health professional for a proper diagnosis is always a beneficial next step.
Yeah, it's sobering to hear how deeply these underlying issues can manifest. So if our brains are caught in this kind of overthinking loop, how does that then specifically translate to challenges in, say, our careers or our relationships? What's the real world impact?
Well, the ripple effect is profound. Let's start with life satisfaction, because overthinking directly correlates to increased stress. Unlike our ancestors who faced acute threats like, a bear attack,
Right.
we're constantly bombarded by milder chronic stressors in modern society. Think inadequate salaries, job dissatisfaction, being overworked, feeling disconnected from purpose, even constant noise pollution. The crazy part is, your body reacts pretty much the same to a bad job review as it would to that bear attack. This chronic activation, this constant fight or flight without a real physical threat to run from, it simply wears you down over time.
So what does that constant on switch do to your body over time? What are the physical effects?
Well, it leads to a whole host of negative effects. Chronic pain, frequent sickness because your immune system gets weakened, persistent insomnia and decreased energy, a dip in libido, digestive issues like constipation or diarrhea, and unpredictable appetite changes eating too much or too little. All of this feeds back into your mental state, contributing to depression and even a rapid heartbeat. It creates a vicious cycle where your body's stress fuels your mind's overthinking and vice versa.
And I imagine this doesn't exactly help us thrive at work, right? How does overthinking impact professional development specifically?
Absolutely not. Overthinking creates significant workplace anxiety. It makes every deadline feel tighter and can really drain the meaning from your work. Common stressors here include financial worries, that persistent feeling of career crisis, maybe you're not getting promotions or your goals feel misaligned, or even just a toxic workplace culture. Symptoms can manifest as a burning desire for perfection, feeling like you're going crazy with constant worrying, irritability, trouble sleeping. You might even start avoiding family or friends because you're just mentally exhausted.
Yeah, that sounds draining.
You might notice appetite changes, bad memory, muscle tension, or just a complete loss of interest in your work. It's that feeling of constant low-grade dread that makes it hard to concentrate and can lead to an irrational fear of making mistakes, which only fuels more overthinking.
That sounds exhausting. And when you bring that level of anxiety and mental load home, how does overthinking strain your relationships and intimacy?
Unfortunately, negativity and overthinking can profoundly strain your closest connections and your sexual well-being. For starters, anxiety can significantly lower your libido. An overwhelmed mind simply pushes thoughts of sex aside, and stress hormones make it incredibly difficult to relax into intimacy. It also hammers your body confidence. You become acutely self-conscious about perceived flaws, which blocks your ability to receive and enjoy pleasure. Intimacy difficulties can escalate into panic or fear, especially if you've experienced past trauma, causing your body to literally shut down. And yes, overthinking can even lead to orgasm struggles. When you're anxious, your breathing tends to be shallow, your muscles clenched. which raises what we call your orgasmic threshold, making it physically harder to reach climax. For women, anxiety can even prevent natural lubrication or trigger vaginismus, leading to significant physical discomfort.
Hey, let's unpack this next part then. While the effects of overthinking can certainly sound daunting, the really good news is that there are powerful, proven ways to manage and ultimately overcome these patterns. This isn't a life sentence, right?
Absolutely. And it's so important to remember that anxiety is a normal, time-limited emotion. It's not inherently dangerous. While profoundly uncomfortable, your body's fight or flight response uses a huge amount of energy and simply cannot continue indefinitely. It eventually burns itself out. Another key distinction is between worry and anxiety. Worry is about our thoughts, and it's often the catalyst for overthinking. It's a misguided attempt by your brain to avoid anxiety itself. Anxiety, on the other hand, is about our emotions, the physical and mental sensations.
Can you give us an example of how that worry versus anxiety plays out in real life, especially for an overthinker? How does that look? Yeah, absolutely. Think about that scenario of constantly checking your girlfriend's flight status because you're worrying about the worst case scenario. That's the thought. Or agonizing over a work situation you've been avoiding. That's worry. Or replaying an awkward conversation over and over, trying to perfect it in retrospect. Again, worry driving the overthinking. That worry can sometimes be an adaptive process, like a little signpost guiding us to consider something. But the overthinking happens when we get stuck at that signpost, endlessly debating where to go, instead of letting it simply guide us and then moving on.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Now that we understand the roots, let's dive into the therapeutic and practical methods that can help you quiet that inner worrying and find real clarity. We're talking about tangible ways you can start to shift these patterns. First, the therapeutic approaches. Many people find incredible relief and tools through these structured methods. The big one you hear about is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Why is it so effective for overthinking? Right, CBT is fantastic for overthinking because it essentially teaches your brain to become its own detective. Its core principle is simple. Your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all interconnected, like gears in a machine. CBT helps you spot those distorted thinking patterns, hold them up to the light, and ask, is this really true, or just a story my overthinking brain is telling me? It's about getting real-time control, learning to see your thoughts as just ideas, not absolute facts, and gaining new perspectives. It's usually structured, focused on your current challenges, and pretty time efficient, which is great for tackling specific overthinking triggers.
That detective analogy makes so much sense. What about interpersonal psychotherapy, or IPT? How does that help with overthinking, particularly if it's tied to our connections with others?
Yeah, IPT focuses squarely on improving your interpersonal relationships and social functioning. This directly impacts the overthinking that often stems from social anxiety or relationship stress. It's incredibly helpful for navigating things like unresolved grief, difficult life transitions like a big move or a divorce, and interpersonal conflicts with family or colleagues. IPT keeps things present-focused, aiming to change your current relationship patterns rather than dwelling endlessly on past interactions or future worries.
Okay. And then there's psychodynamic therapy, which often sounds a bit more in-depth. How does that specifically address overthinking?
Psychodynamic therapy is indeed an in-depth talking therapy. It helps you acknowledge those perhaps repressed emotions and understand how past experiences might be subtly affecting your current behavior, relationships, and decision-making. For an overthinker, this can be incredibly powerful because it helps you uncover the root of certain anxieties or insecurities that might be fueling your constant analysis. By exploring those deeper roots, the aim is to increase your self-esteem and improve social connections by resolving those underlying conflicts, which naturally tends to quiet the overthinking.
So helpful. Now, beyond formal therapy.
Yeah, beyond formal therapy, a critical step for you is becoming your own inner investigator to manage those unhelpful thought patterns. There are several common unhealthy thinking patterns that keep that overthinking engine revving. For instance, jumping to conclusions, this comes in two flavors. Mind reading, where you assume you know what others are thinking negatively about you.
Oh, yeah.
And fortune telling, where you predict a bad outcome and convince yourself it's basically fact.
Oh, I recognize that one. Our brains are so good at convincing us these predictions are true. What are some others we should look out for?
Well, there's overgeneralization, where you see a single negative event as some kind of endless pattern. I failed this presentation, so I'm terrible at everything.
Yeah.
And all or nothing thinking, also called black and white thinking, where anything less than perfect is seen as a complete failure. A big one for overthinkers is disqualifying the positive, where you discount your successes by saying, oh, that doesn't count, or anyone could have done that.
Hmm.
This really robs you of genuine accomplishment and keeps that self-doubt cycle spinning.
I can absolutely see how that would trap you in overthinking. What else should we watch out for?
We also have magnification and minimization, basically blowing things out of proportion or shrinking their importance inappropriately. Emotional reasoning is incredibly common. Assuming your negative emotions reflect reality. I feel anxious, so something bad must be about to happen, even without evidence.
Right, I feel it, therefore it's true.
Exactly. Then there's catastrophizing, associating terrible, extreme consequences with an outcome. Like a small mistake at work will lead to you being fired immediately. Labeling and mislabeling, attaching negative global labels to yourself or others based on one event. Personalization, taking responsibility for something that clearly wasn't entirely or even mostly your fault. And the mental filter, where you exclusively dwell on one negative detail, which then taints your entire perception of a whole situation.
Wow, it's almost like our brains have all these little tricks, these cognitive distortions to keep us trapped. So when you catch your mind using one of these patterns, what are some specific, actionable questions you can ask yourself to challenge those thoughts and break the cycle? Let's start with probability overestimation, where your brain tells you the absolute worst is definitely going to happen. What do you ask then? You ask yourself, what is the realistic probability this will come true based on my actual past experiences, not just my fear?
Right.
What are other possible results from this situation, even good ones? And crucially, what would I tell a friend who is having these exact thoughts? That shift in perspective can be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. And for catastrophizing, where you jump to the worst possible outcome, truly challenge it. How bad would it really be if my fear came true? Is it truly horrible and unbearable or just uncomfortable? And how long will this embarrassment or difficult feeling actually last? How long will people really remember it? Often the answer is not as long as my overthinking brain is telling me.
Okay, what if you're mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking negatively about you?
Stop and ask, is it truly possible that I don't know what others are thinking right now? Do I have any concrete evidence to support this assumption? Or is it just a guess my anxiety is making?
Good ones. And for personalization, when you take responsibility for something that isn't yours?
Consider, what other factors might actually be playing a role here beyond me? Could it be the other person's stress, their own deadlines, or their mood, rather than something I did?
And when you catch yourself using those rigid should statements, I should have known better, they should have acted differently.
Ask, would I hold a friend to the exact same, often impossible standard? Are there any exceptions to this should in real life?
If you're stuck in all or nothing thinking, where anything less than perfect is a failure.
Look for the gray area. Is there a middle ground I'm completely overlooking? Was any part of the situation handled well, even if not perfectly?
And finally, for selective attention or memory, where you only focus on the negative.
Deliberately pivot by asking, what are the positive elements here that I'm completely ignoring right now? What strengths or successes do I have that I'm completely overlooking? These questions train your brain to become more balanced and objective.
Okay, let's unpack this next powerful tool that helps us stay out of those mental traps. Mindfulness. What exactly is it, and how does it help quiet the overthinking mind?
Mindfulness is essentially a mental training practice where you consciously bring your mind to focus on your present thoughts and sensations without judgment. Programs like mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, are built around this, and honestly, even just 10 minutes a day can make a massive difference in your ability to manage overthinking.
So if someone's never tried it, how would they even begin a basic mindfulness meditation? Walk us through it.
Okay. Start by finding a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed. First, gently acknowledge any thoughts about the past or future that pop up, and then consciously decide to set them aside for now, just to focus on this present moment. Next, bring your awareness to your breath. Don't try to change it, just notice it. Feel the sensation of air moving in and out. Maybe notice your belly gently rising and falling with each inhale and exhale. As thoughts inevitably come and go, and they will simply watch them like clouds drifting across the sky. Acknowledge them without judgment, no need to get caught up in them or analyze them, then gently return your focus to your breath as your anchor. As you near the end of your session, maybe after 5 or 10 minutes, slowly become aware of your physical location again, the sounds around you, the feelings in your body, before you gently open your eyes and get up. It's really about building that muscle of present moment awareness.
That's a great starting point. But the beauty of mindfulness is it doesn't always have to be a formal meditation, right? How can we weave this powerful practice into our everyday lives, especially when our minds tend to wander off?
Oh, absolutely. You can infuse mindfulness into almost any mundane task. For instance, when you're doing the dishes, instead of letting your mind race about work or worries, truly focus on the warm water on your hands, the feel of the bubbles, the scent of the soap, the clunking sounds of the plates. When you're brushing your teeth, really feel your weight on your feet, the sensation of the brush in your hand, its movement against your teeth. While driving, notice the specific colors you see around you, the subtle smell of the car, the texture of the steering wheel, the sounds of the road, and gently bring your attention back if your mind wanders off, without judging yourself.
Yeah.
During exercise, focus on your breathing and your body's movement, acknowledging muscle sensations without labeling them good or bad. Even at bedtime, instead of rushing through tasks, try to enjoy completing them mindfully. Acknowledge any anxieties about tomorrow, maybe thank them for trying to protect you, and then consciously let them go before you try to drift off to sleep.
And for those who prefer more guidance, I know there are resources like guided meditations, maybe something like the Joyful Mind meditation.
Yes, that's a good example of a guided script that can help induce a relaxed state, often using imagery. It might guide you to picture yourself in a beautiful, peaceful place like a green field, and maybe finding something symbolic like a special fruit that brings a powerful feeling of happiness and peace when you imagine eating it. It's about gently guiding your mind into that desired positive state.
Great. Finally, as a foundational layer to all of this, let's talk about healthier lifestyle changes. They may seem simple, even obvious sometimes, but they are incredibly powerful tools in the fight against overthinking.
They truly are foundational. Social support is vital. It actively reduces isolation, which is a significant risk factor for negative thinking and overthinking. Make a conscious effort to maintain regular contact with family and friends. Consider joining a support group or even volunteering. Connecting with others pulls you out of your own head and provides perspective. And nutrition is absolutely key. Eating well-balanced, smaller meals throughout the day helps maintain stable glucose levels. This is crucial for optimal brain function and, yes, your willpower, your ability to resist those overthinking spirals when your brain feels depleted.
So, what does this all mean when it comes to tackling overthinking? It's not just about stopping negative thoughts, it also means actively building your inner strength and resilience.
Exactly. And a truly powerful tool for that is emotional intelligence, or EI. We define EI as your ability to recognize, understand, and control your own emotions, and to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. It has 5 distinct factors that directly help combat overthinking. First, self-awareness. That's being keenly aware of your inner self, your strengths, your weaknesses, and honestly evaluating your behavior against your values. It's really the cornerstone of EI because the more self-aware you are, the more you can catch yourself starting to overthink and reduce those emotional burdens.
So, it's about really knowing yourself to avoid those mental traps in the first place.
Precisely. Second, self-regulation. This is your brain's emotional pause button and volume control.
Mm.
It's the ability to manage and control your emotions, preventing impulsive or aggressive actions, and crucially, stopping you from endlessly overthinking their aftermath. Third, motivation high EI tends to bring more optimism and resilience, which is incredibly crucial for overthinkers who often lack motivation because their energy is consumed by all that analysis. Fourth, empathy, connecting emotionally with others. Effective empathy, for instance, means genuinely sharing and understanding others' feelings by truly trying to put yourself in their shoes. This helps you stop overthinking what others might be thinking about you because you have a better understanding of them. And finally, social skills, the ability to show respect and care for others, which naturally leads to better relationships and attracts positive people into your life, reducing social friction and the need for social overthinking.
Yeah, it's clear that EI brings immense practical benefits. It's almost like having a superpower to read people, better understanding their motivations, how approachable they might be. It allows you to communicate better, right? Tailoring your style to fit any given situation, whether you're talking to your partner or your boss. And it helps you understand different personality types, which can really smooth out all your social interactions and quiet that inner worry about what others are thinking.
Definitely. And to increase your emotional intelligence, it's sometimes helpful to focus on what not to do. This includes things like habitually blaming others, threatening, guilt-tripping, yelling, or refusing to take responsibility for your actions. Those things fuel conflict and more overthinking. Instead, focus on what to do. First, assume responsibility. Take ownership of your part in situations, accept the consequences, and be transparent. This builds trust and helps you learn, cutting off overthinking's favorite fuel, uncertainty. Second, learn from your mistakes. This involves a kind of six-step process. Recognize the mistake, pinpoint the decision that led to it, recall your thought process at the time, think about what your ideal result would have been, plan how you'll handle it differently next time, and then repeat this cycle. Continuous learning from mistakes is absolutely key to preventing future overthinking about the same things.
That's a great, very practical framework. What else helps build EI?
Beyond that, actively try to build more empathy by trying to understand the why behind others' emotions, not just their actions. Choose to learn from criticism rather than instantly jumping to defense. That's a big one for overthinkers. Learning to sit with feedback. And practice honest self-expression. Authentically expressing your deepest feelings, needs, and values often inspires compassion in others and clears the air, reducing things you might otherwise overthink. Additional tips include regularly reflecting on your own emotions, maybe journaling, actively asking for other perspectives, observing your own behavior almost like a scientist, and critically learning to pause before you act or speak in emotionally charged situations.
Okay, let's unpack this next crucial aspect, self-discipline. For overthinkers, I know this can feel like a mountain to climb because so much energy is spent analyzing rather than doing.
You've hit on a core point there. People prone to overthinking often struggle with motivation to achieve their goals, precisely because all their energy is consumed by that analysis paralysis. The powerful truth, though, is that motivation often comes after taking action, not always before. Self-discipline isn't some innate trait you either have or don't. It's a necessity, driven by willpower. Research actually shows that self-discipline is a stronger predictor of academic success than IQ, and it's linked to better mental and physical health, better relationships, and even financial security in adulthood. Now, while willpower can feel like a limited resource, interestingly, just believing you have a large stockpile of it can actually buffer its depletion. Mindset matters here.
That's a game changer for many people thinking motivation follows action, not the other way around. So how can we actually build this self-discipline muscle? What are the steps?
Okay, here's a kind of 10-step guide. First, figure out your weaknesses. Where do you tend to give in or get sidetracked? Acknowledge them so you can plan around them. Second, define clear, quantifiable goals. Think, write 500 words a day instead of just write a book, and create a concrete action plan with steps. Third, build self-discipline like a muscle. It literally gets stronger through repetition and daily practice. Start small. Fourth, adopt healthy eating habits. Remember, glucose fuels brain power and willpower, so it's small, regular meals to maintain energy. Fifth, get rid of negative preconceptions about willpower. Believe you have a large supply, and you're more likely to tap into it when needed. Sixth, create a backup plan using implementation intention. This is like an if-then plan. For example, planning if I go to the party and feel tempted by beer, then I will order a plain soda with lime. It pre-decides your action to avoid temptation. And critically, don't forget to reward yourself when you accomplish your goals or stick to your plan. It provides essential positive reinforcement.
That's super helpful. And when it comes to procrastination, which I know is often linked directly to overthinking and that lack of motivation, what are the key steps to overcome it?
Right, procrastination is a prime example of overthinking fueled inaction. Here's how to tackle it. First, break down your goals into smaller, less overwhelming tasks. Instead of just clean the garage, break it into clear out one corner, sort tools, take items to donation. This makes the big task feel manageable instead of a giant, overthinkable mountain.
Makes sense.
Second, share your goals with others. This creates immediate accountability and motivation. Even posting updates on social media or telling a friend can work wonders. Third, reassess your goals often to ensure they still align with your current self and values. Maybe that goal isn't right for you anymore. And most importantly, sometimes you just have to embrace the just do it mentality. Taking that very first small step often creates the momentum and motivation you need to keep going, shattering the overthinking paralysis.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit deeper. Let's talk about the silent orchestrator of much of our overthinking. Your subconscious mind. It's this powerful, sometimes chaotic operating system running in the background of your brain, isn't it?
That's a perfect analogy. Your conscious mind holds everything you're currently aware of, your immediate thoughts and short-term memories. But your subconscious mind contains all those memories, beliefs, and processes you're not currently aware of. Yet they can profoundly influence your feelings and actions. This is often where your inner critic resides, that persistent voice in the back of your mind that questions you, delivers negative thoughts, chips away at your self-esteem, and very powerfully drives that overthinking loop.
So, how do we begin to tame this inner critic? It sounds like a formidable opponent sometimes.
Well, the first step is often simple awareness and curiosity, rather than immediate resistance or trying to shut it down. Instead of ignoring or rejecting its voice, try to acknowledge its words as maybe opinions or concerns, not necessarily insults or facts. Try to cultivate a belief that it actually has good intentions, even if its methods feel hindering right now. Perhaps it's trying to protect you from perceived failure or embarrassment, albeit clumsily.
Interesting perspective.
Then you can actively try to have a conversation with it. Ask the questions like, what is my inner critic truly trying to protect me from? What uncomfortable feeling does it not want me to experience? Is what it's saying based on factual evidence or just an old opinion or fear? How can I make changes or move forward without this resistance it's creating? And when that negative voice appears, learn to be assertive with it. You can literally say to yourself internally, stop saying those negative statements. I have evidence to the contrary. Or, you are lying. I am not weak. I have conquered my fears before.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from being a victim of the voice to an active participant engaging with it.
Right, taking back control. So, what does this all mean for your everyday life? We've talked about deep therapeutic approaches and challenging thought patterns. But what are some simple, practical, daily methods to integrate all of this? Things you can start doing today.
It's definitely simpler than you might think to weave these powerful shifts into your daily routine. First, embrace a gratitude practice. Try keeping a gratitude journal, just jotting down a few things each day. Or go for gratitude walks in your neighborhood. Consciously focus on your senses. Notice the warm sun on your skin, the smell of fresh-cut grass, the sounds of birds, and deliberately notice small, pleasant things you usually overlook. This actively shifts your mood out of the overthinking loop and into appreciation. Second, talk to yourself, but in a helpful way. Remind yourself frequently that people generally don't care as much about your actions or words as you think they do. They're mostly focused on their own lives. That realization can be incredibly freeing, allowing you to make decisions for yourself rather than constantly overthinking every potential external perception.
That's a wonderfully liberating thought. What else can we do daily?
Third, actively seek positivity. Make a conscious effort to speak out loud things you like and love throughout the day. Even simple phrases like, I love the way my coffee tastes this morning, or I really like today's weather. This trains your brain to notice and reinforce the good, counteracting the negativity bias. And finally, practice affirmations. Use concrete, positive statements to literally fill your mind, replacing the negative chatter. Things like, I am beautiful, I am grateful for my dog, life is sweet, or I am capable and strong. Repeating these, especially when you feel the overthinking start, helps to crowd out the negative noise.
What an incredible deep dive we've taken today. Really covered a lot of ground. We started by truly understanding that overthinking isn't just a habit, but often stems from deeper roots in things like low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. We explored its profound ripple effect impact on every area of your life, your satisfaction, your professional growth, and your precious relationships. And then we dived into a wealth of actionable strategies, from therapeutic approaches like CBT and IPT to practical methods for challenging those unhelpful thought patterns, integrating mindfulness into your daily routine, and building a stronger foundation through healthier lifestyle choices and things like emotional intelligence and self-discipline.
Yeah, and this raises an important question for you, our listener. What's next? The journey to mitigate overthinking isn't really a one-time fix. It's more of an ongoing practice, isn't it? It requires vigilance and conscious redirection of your thoughts. It's about constantly analyzing your thoughts, becoming aware of them, and identifying when that anxiety or worry starts to creep in. By learning to manage and monitor your thoughts, you effectively gain more control over your emotions, which then powerfully affects your behavior and your experience of life.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Given that overthinking often stems from a deep, perhaps overly critical, analysis of self and situations, could mastering the art of conscious observation, challenging your inner critic, and redirecting your focus actually transform this tendency from a hindrance into a powerful tool? A tool for deeper self-awareness and truly intentional growth, something to consider as you move forward from here.